Today's video will be unusual for me in many ways. For the first time, I decided to record a personal address to a man who put a lot of effort into destroying our international organization and dehumanizing all of us, its participants. Mr. Dvorkin, I understand how unconventional my address to you might seem. After everything that has happened between our organization and your entities, after the large-scale campaign of harassment and discreditation that you have successfully conducted, any dialogue between us seems impossible. Yet, I'm consciously taking this step. Alexander Leonidovich, today, you and I find ourselves on the same side, albeit unwillingly, and it is the climate that has placed us here. The climate crisis dictates its own rules. It has already created a reality, one that you, as an utmost intelligent person, cannot deny. I appeal to your keen observation and rationality, which have helped you achieve such heights. Do you not notice how rapidly and abnormally the climate is changing? Even in regions where it used to be stable, such as in your country, in Russia. With your powerful analytical mind, you must have noticed this long before many leaders in your country. You've also noticed that climate disasters do not distinguish between us and them. They pose an equal threat to all strata of society and all political groups. Despite the tremendous efforts you and your network of agents have made to dehumanize, harass, and ban us, despite all of that, today, I propose to distance ourselves from our differences and emotions and, as reasonable people, to soberly assess our shared threat. This is why I'm reaching out to you. Mr. Dvorkin, more than anyone else, you are aware that ALLATRA's activity have always been focused on the climate. We have never gathered intelligence data for any third forces. We've always remained beyond politics and beyond religion, and our sole concern has always been and continues to be the climate. This is the truth, and you're aware of that. We had been warning about climate change long before its first signs appeared. At that time, many experts claimed that serious climate problems would only emerge in 100 to 150 years. However, as we observe the unfolding events today, those same experts now admit their mistakes and the inaccuracies of their forecasts. Everything that we have been talking about all these years is now confirmed. Our analysis, our model, and our forecasts are confirmed. Until recently, we were able to accurately analyze and even predict climate changes. And here I'd like to emphasize an important point. It is not about us being right, but rather mathematics turned out to be right. Everything we publicly state about the climate has always been based solely on the analysis of open data from respected scientific institutions and peer-reviewed scientists. And now, as we witness the exponential increase in the number and intensity of climate disasters, such an ability to make accurate predictions is needed by humanity more than ever. Mr. Dvorkin, take a look at what is happening in the world. These are not our apocalyptic predictions. This is reality, confirmed by open data from leading scientific institutions. The data point to an abnormal increase in energy within the planet. What is especially alarming is that the same processes have begun occurring in the interior of other planets in the solar system, even on dead planets. Synchronously with Earth, there has been an increase in volcanic activity seismic activity, and magnetic anomalies. This indicates that the cores of these planets are also receiving a significant influx of energy from space, reviving them. These are large-scale processes that we cannot ignore and that are already producing consequences. Look at the statistics. An abnormal rise in the number and intensity of earthquakes, a growing number of active volcanoes, destructive hurricanes, typhoons, and catastrophic floods. The entire planetary climate system is transforming before our eyes. Wind patterns and ocean currents are undergoing radical changes. These are not random events, but systemic shifts. Each of our forecasts consistently comes true. Look at the scale of what is happening. Unprecedented floods in Asia, particularly China, destructive floods on the Arabian Peninsula, which we predicted. And, I assure you, seismic activity there will soon intensify as well. Catastrophic events in Europe, including the recent tragedy in Spain. Large-scale climate disasters, which we had warned about, have now reached America. One of the final stages, the next critical point, will be Italy. You will witness this yourself. All these events are not isolated incidents. They are links in the same chain leading me and you,
esteemed Alexander Leonidovich,
and all of humankind to a point of no return. You are an extraordinary talented person, and I urge you, examine the progression of these events. It is accelerating, and there are no signs of it slowing down. 30 years of continuous climate research give us the right to say this with full understanding of the situation. While you were building your empire of power, we were studying the climate. The climate is already affecting all aspects of our lives: economy, production, and geopolitics. Economic losses are growing, climate indicators are escalating, and people are dying. Look at the numbers. $2 trillion US have already been spent addressing the consequences of climate disasters in recent years, and this figure will only continue to rise in the very progression we talked about. You may have heard calls for climate adaptation. This is indeed a widely discussed topic today, but you, as an exceptional intelligent person, please think about what exactly we are being asked to adapt to. To the destruction of humankind? Ask residents of flooded Valencia or earthquake-stricken Turkey, what were they supposed to adapt and how? And what will happen when 7-magnitude earthquakes become a daily reality across the globe? In such conditions, how will production continue? Laws will be upheld, or order be maintained. What are we being offered? To live in open fields? But how would modern society function under such conditions? That's not a script of a post-apocalyptic movie. It is already becoming a reality. For many, it has already become reality. Speak to those who have survived these catastrophes. The primary war humanity is fighting today is a war against the climate. And this enemy is more fearsome than any other. You cannot negotiate with it, bargain with it. Send it a video address or offer a peace treaty. The climate has already become more dangerous than war. And today, the people who have become victims of climate disasters are saying so themselves. Now, imagine the scale of impending migration amid food shortages. Initially, authorities will attempt to control this process. but it will very quickly spiral out of control. And this is only the beginning. It will not stop. In fact, everything is escalating even faster than we anticipated. We were off by 1 year in our forecasts. The reason for this error lies in our desire to remain optimistic and look at the situation with hope. But the reality turned out to be far worse. What will come next? In chaos, survival might be possible for a time, but ultimately, the climate will erase everything. And now, at a time when accurate forecasting and understanding of what is truly happening with the climate are critically needed, we are unable to provide them. This is solely because you personally prohibited us from doing so. For this very reason, I'm addressing you,
Alexander Leonidovich.
You are a man of genius, and let's face it, you are the only one having real influence in Russia. Let everyone else not be offended, but this is a fact. Over 10 years of operation, our experimental equipment, which you are aware of, provided Russia with a tremendous climate advantage. For 10 years, the indicators of extreme climate events in Russia were significantly lower across all parameters compared to other regions of the world. The operation of this equipment also positively impacted the climate situation in Kazakhstan, China, and Eastern Europe. However, when you labeled us as undesirable and kicked us out, the said experimental equipment was dismantled and removed from Russia. And all the work of our research group was stopped. Immediately after the equipment was shut down, we warned that the first effects would become noticeable within 3 to 4 months, with the full scope of the consequences emerging after 6 to 9 months, once the protective effect of its operation had completely dissipated. In confirmation of the above, shortly after, between August 10th and the month of November 2023, meaning 3 months after the experimental equipment shut down, there was a record surge in the frequency and intensity of climate disasters across Russia and some Eastern European countries. And this trend has only continued to grow monthly, as clearly demonstrated by graphs, data, and the growth of natural disasters in Russia and other countries previously influenced by the experimental equipment. Although it wouldn't have saved the world from a global climatic collapse, the 10 years of operation of the equipment, which we gifted not only to your country, but to the world, significantly mitigated climate change because the equipment had a real and tangible influence on reducing the growth in the number and intensity of climate disasters in that region. This demonstrates our real capabilities. However, without access to data from Russia and the ability to cooperate, our work has been paralyzed. As a matter of fact, the hotbed of the climate hazard lies precisely in Russia, a region heating faster and more intensely than any other on the planet. I'm referring to Siberia. It is critical for us to know what is happening there in order to assess the rising threat level. Just as an MRI helps physicians diagnose an illness and prescribe treatment, data from that region would enable us to understand the state of the planet and predict the trajectory of climate changes. The main threat from this region is that if magma, which is currently rising actively from the depths, breaks through the Earth's crust, it will not only destroy Russia, but also obliterate the world as we know it. Because such a catastrophe would trigger a cascade of disasters that would make conditions on Earth unlivable. We understand your ideology and ambitions to reshape the world order. Your network operates brilliantly. Suffice it to look at the current state of Europe and the globe. You are truly a genius to have orchestrated such a system. But let's face the truth. The climate won't give you the time to see this plan through. No one in history has ever succeeded in taking control of the entire world. But even if it is possible, the climate collapse will come far sooner than you have time to finish building your empire. We understand that you will not bring us back or take a step back, as you would lose your authority. You have dehumanized us too much, and you will not reverse that, even under the threat of Russia's complete collapse. The return of an organization that you have listed for destruction would severely damage your reputation and put you in an uncomfortable position. However, we are all now facing a threat that is much more important than any of our disagreements. With all your influence on laws and leverage, you can ban anything. You can ban us, but you cannot ban the climate. Please admit this fact for yourself. Right now, we are deprived of the ability to conduct real analysis. We've been actually reduced to the role of outside observers. We've been deprived of the access to data that allowed us to monitor the processes happening deep inside Earth's most dangerous region. Esteemed Alexander Leonidovich, if the return of our organization is impossible, at least instruct your specialists to begin collecting and analyzing the critically important data I'm about to outline. As I've already said, the greatest threat to the world right now is under your feet. I'm referring to the magmatic plume beneath Siberia. The danger it poses is not just serious. It far exceeds the threat posed by the Yellowstone supervolcano. Yet, who is currently monitoring what is happening deep under Siberia? Who is tracking the processes that can trigger a planetary-scale catastrophe? The answer is obvious. No one. Look at the approach to monitoring Yellowstone. Every detail is recorded there, from the slightest tremor to birds' migration, and even minimal changes in the behavior of local wildlife. But what about Siberia? It seems like the Russian government and scientists have decided to rely on pseudo-religious myths and magical predictions claiming that Siberia is a reliable stronghold and the cradle of civilization, so there's no need to worry. Why install seismic centers or monitor anything if some half-mage, half-priest said that no disasters will happen? Why rely on science when you have such authority figures? And if something bad does happen, no problem. They will just fly around in helicopters 3 times with icons and everything will be fixed by itself. Solid logic and brilliant strategy. As an atheist, you definitely understand what I mean. Excuse me, but I'll ask a question. Have they all completely lost their minds? While somebody relies on sacred prophecies, real processes are unfolding underground. I can certainly say that nature is unlike to consider icons and prayers a sufficient replacement for science and common sense. Perhaps it is time to stop clinging to the beautiful myths and start facing reality. The truth is that a burst of the magmatic plume under Siberia will not only cause local devastation and wipe out all of Russia, but will consequently lead to the extinction of all life on Earth. Any delay in analyzing data and finding solutions to this problem can result in catastrophic consequences on a global scale. You've already taken a year of our time, depriving us of the opportunity to inform people about the climate situation. You've discredited and dehumanized us so that no one would take our warning seriously. You have stigmatized us as an apocalyptic cult at a time when your entire country is apocalyptic. Do you even imagine how valuable our work was for the entire world? You succeeded in getting ALLATRA declared as an undesirable organization, forcing it out of Russia without considering the consequences. However, by doing so, you've lost the equipment that helped mitigate climate disasters in Russia, which are directly associated with the magmatic hotbed beneath Siberia. I emphasize, Siberia is not an ark, it's a hotbed. We've lost access to critical data that provided a comprehensive understanding of the situation. So now Siberia is a blind spot for us, and we have no idea what is happening there. How has the equipment shutdown affected underground processes? How quickly will everything that was once restrained escalate? At what depth is the magma currently? And most importantly, pardon my bluntness, but I think this will be clear to many people. The main question is, when will Siberia blow up? In fact, if nothing is done and nothing is undertaken, sooner or later the magmatic plume will inevitably reach the surface, and everything that is accumulated in the planet's interior will erupt. The same thing happened in Siberia about 250 million years ago, as evidenced by basalt trap rock. If you don't believe me, ask your geologist or just Google it. All of that is publicly available information. We don't use any secret data in our analysis. All the information our team of climate and geodynamic experts uses is openly available. Anyone is free to verify and compare it themselves. However, no one seems to be interested in doing that. Then, at the very least, let those who are willing do the work. Previously, we were able to monitor and forecast events. Now, instead of real work, we are left to guess at coffee grounds or cards. Yes, we can fantasize and make assumptions based on limited surface observations and the climate situation in Russia visible to the naked eye, piecing together scraps of publicly available information. However, forecasts without real data are meaningless. And how much climate-related information is being concealed in Russia? Do you think we don't notice how Russian news reports now refer to earthquakes as dynamic jolts? Whom is such wording intended for, and who do they think to fool? The climate? Such tactics will only work until the first major disasters bring chaos, destruction, and countless deaths. Therefore, in order to avoid the irreversible, we urgently need data from the hotbed of danger. I'm addressing you, Mr. Dvorkin, since you are the cause of the current situation. Future climate events in Russia now basically depend on you, and you are totally responsible for them. Hence, if you are unwilling to let ALLATRA participants resume climate research in Russia, then I have no other choice but to personally ask you to provide us with the data on the situation in Siberia. It is not just us who need them. Your country needs them as well. Let me explain what we need specifically and what for. The ALLATRA team of climate and geodynamics experts analyzed open data and identified the approximate location of the mantle plume beneath Siberia, as well as its size and approximate boundaries. I will now outline the logic behind our experts' calculations so that you, Alexander Leonidovich, can familiarize yourself with the findings and verify the reliability of our conclusions, and also get convinced of the very existence of the magmatic plume under Siberia. Every stage of the research is backed by objective data and can be independently verified. Let's begin with what a mantle plume looks like. The plume structure may be roughly visualized as a mushroom. It has a tail, stem, that carries heated material from the core mantle boundaries upward. The upper part of the plume, which expands as it rises, forms the plume head. When a plume reaches the base of the lithosphere, it encounters a refractory layer of solidified rocks, causing the head to spread horizontally beneath the lithosphere, like a mushroom cap. According to research data, as the plume approaches the lithosphere, its radius doubles as it flows, and its ascent speed significantly decreases. Ernst 2002. Thus, the plume radius becomes twice that of its tail. This is significant detail to keep in mind, as it will be crucial for calculating the plume size. The rising hot material from the plume tail exerts pressure and burns through the lithosphere, forming cracks. In weak areas, secondary plumes are then formed, upper magmatic chambers within the Earth's crust. Such chambers exist, for example, under Yellowstone, Campi Flegrei, and other supervolcanoes. Those chambers are the sites where crustal breaches and massive magma eruptions can occur. For a preliminary search for the precise location of the mantle plume and the area of its spreading, it was crucial to estimate the possible size of the plume's tail and head. Based on scientific literature, it is known that a similar magmatic superplume, which caused numerous basalt eruptions in Eurasia, in Siberia, at the boundary of the Permian and Triassic periods, 250 million years ago, had the following dimensions: 4,000 kilometers from west to east and 3,000 kilometers from north to south. The head of the plume is assumed to have had a diameter of 1,000 to 2,000 kilometers. You can now see its impressive size on this map. Based on geological and paleogeographic data on the magmatic plume that was active in Siberia about 250 million years ago, our specialists hypothesized that the current plume is likely to be localized in the same region. It exhibits comparable dynamic and geophysical characteristics, and mechanisms of plume system development within the identified territory, taking into account the tectonic evolution of the region. Now, let's consider the probable development of the plume intrusion. That is, how magma will behave under various rocks as it will be rising to the surface and melting lithospheric plates from beneath. It is known that the western Siberian plate is younger and thinner, with a thickness of 35 to 40 kilometers. Conversely, the East Siberian plate, or platform, known as the Siberian craton, is older, thicker, and colder, with a thickness of 40 to 45 kilometers. According to seismic tomography data, small magmatic hotbeds are currently observed beneath the East Siberian platform, Those hotbeds spread laterally under the Siberian craton due to the plate's colder nature. Upper mantle structure beneath southern Siberia and Mongolia from regional seismic tomography, I.U. Kulikov. In simpler terms, magma encounters obstacles while advancing through the thicker and colder rocks characteristic of the Siberian craton. Consequently, magma flows begin to spread beneath the craton. Under such conditions, magma is likely to penetrate only at the edges, where the lithosphere is less stable and creates favorable conditions for magmatic intrusions. Thus, magma beneath the Siberian craton is more likely to spread horizontally because the craton's rigid and cold structure impedes vertical penetration. Here you can see cross-sections of the Siberian craton, on the left, derived from seismic tomography, which demonstrate reduced seismic velocities, marked with red arrows, in the area of Lake Baikal and the Alden Shield. These anomalies can be interpreted as a branch of the magmatic plume. Moreover, there is a possibility that the fragments of this branch extend as far as Chukotka. It is also worth mentioning that while scientific research data often highlight that magma flows around the Siberian craton, this does not rule out the possibility of the craton being partially or even completely melted due to the magmatic plume's influence. Let's move on to analyzing the indirect indicators of the magmatic plume's location. According to estimates by our team of climate change and geodynamic specialists, the Siberian plume is currently likely spreading beneath the base of the East Siberian and partially the West Siberian lithospheric plates. Scientific data suggests that such spreading may occur at depths of approximately 31 to 37 miles, 50 to 60 kilometers, while the most pronounced trace of the magmatic flow, the so-called plume tail, is observed at depths of about 62 miles, 100 kilometers. It is also hypothesized that secondary plumes could penetrate at shallower depths of approximately 25 miles, 40 kilometers. According to data from certain seismic tomography models, anomalies of reduced seismic velocities, indicating a more ductile or molten medium, have been detected at depths of 68 to 93 miles, or 110 to 150 kilometers. These are highlighted by two red arrows on the image currently displayed. These areas represent zones where magma is more fluid and mobile, potentially identifying the heads of the plume. Clearly, these anomalies could only form as a result of magma rising from below. These anomalies are localized south of the Gaida and Taimyr Peninsula and are presented on seismic velocity maps published in a scientific article in August 2024. Scientists hypothesize, while we are certain of it, that these anomalies are connected to two tails of the magmatic plume. If the presented model is accurate, the diameter of each head of the plume rising beneath the East Siberian craton is approximately 373 to 435 miles, or 6 to 700 kilometers. For convenience, these anomalies have been presented on a physical map. One of them is primarily located beneath western Siberia, while the other one lies under eastern Siberia. The anomalies are located at depths of approximately 110 kilometers. It is crucial to note that the analysis of seismic activity in Siberia presented in this article involved data from fewer than 10 seismic sensors, most of which are situated along the boundaries of the lithospheric plates, with almost none in their intersections. In comparison, thousands of sensors were used in similar analysis for the rest of Asia. Such a stark disparity underscores the critically insufficient seismic data available for Siberia. Depths ranging from 68 to 25 miles or 110 to 40 kilometers have been examined using seismic tomography models, but all of them present different images. It is clear that the data available for conducting detailed seismic tomography analysis within Siberia is insufficient. It is important to note that when constructing seismic tomography models, geophysicists use all available earthquake data, combining it into a unified image. Essentially, the resulting tomographic model is like a long exposure photograph taken over a very extended period, about 30 years. This can be compared to an MRI performed over decades, during which a person remains inside the machine. Naturally, such data becomes blurred as overlapping processes from different time periods are combined. A similar issue is observed with the Siberian plume. As it gradually ascended and transformed, its signal was captured by sensors, and all these changes were compiled into a single image. As a result, instead of a clear picture, we end up with a blurred mess. Since modern science views magmatic plumes as geological objects that rise over millions of years, a 30-year time frame appears as an insignificant moment by comparison. However, based on the analysis, significant changes have occurred in the Siberian plume over these 3 decades. Moving forward, our ALLATRA team, comprising of climate and geodynamic specialists, examined several near-surface layers. First of all, it is the heating of the soil. Annual reports by discriminate include maps of soil temperature changes. For analysis, we used reports from 2021, 2022, and 2023. Each report analyzed soil temperature data at depths of 31.5 inches, 63 inches, and 126 inches. The most informative maps were those showing trends for the periods 1976 through 2021 and 1976 through 2023. A comparison of these maps revealed a significant anomaly that emerged within 2 years, 2021 to 2023, south of Gaida and Taimyr peninsulas. This anomaly, highlighted with a red circle on the lower map, coincides with a region where anomalies in lithospheric velocities had been previously detected in seismic tomography models. Given that this anomaly is observed at a depth of approximately 10 feet, or 3 meters, based on data from 466 meteorological stations across Russia, it can be inferred that the increased soil heating level is associated with the activation of processes caused by the intrusion of secondary magmatic plumes above the head of the primary plume. Next, the near-surface air temperature was analyzed. The most informative data was expected from maps for the winter season of 2023 through 2024. The map of average temperature anomalies for the period from December 2023 to February 2024 shows a temperature anomaly in the region of the Gaida and Taimyr peninsulas, with increases ranging from 3.6 Fahrenheit to 8.1 Fahrenheit, or 2 degrees Celsius to 4.5 degrees Celsius. Considering that this part of the territory shows significant warming during the winter period, despite being located in northern latitudes, it can be inferred that these thermal anomalies may also be associated with the intrusion of a magmatic plume. It is worth noting that on the maps of average monthly temperatures for January and July during the period of 2001 to 2022, this region also stands out. This indicates that the temperature anomaly in this area has been continuously observed not only over the past 2 years, but for the last 23 years, based on average data. Our specialists have also proposed a hypothesis about a potential connection between processes occurring in the mantle plume under Siberia and seismic activity in Kamchatka. As part of the analysis of geodynamic links between the Siberian plume and activity in Kamchatka, our specialists examined periods of peak seismic activity in Kamchatka over the past year. The most significant event occurred on August 18, 2024, at 7:10 a.m. UTC, with an epicenter in Kamchatka. It was a magnitude 7.0 earthquake at a depth of 18 miles, or 29 kilometers. Located 56 miles, or 90 kilometers, east of Petropavlovsk-Kamchatsky. An analysis of air temperature in August 2024 revealed that the thermal anomaly during this period extended not only to the regions of Gaida and Taimyr, but also significantly further south, including the Baikal region and beyond. This suggests that an acoustic wave triggered by a deep intramantle explosion could have simultaneously caused seismic activation in Kamchatka and a heat release in an area along the boundary of western and eastern Siberia. An analysis of average temperature maps for other months in 2023 and 2024 revealed that the locations of temperature anomalies varied significantly from month to month. Based on this data, no consistent trend could be identified. An intriguing addition to the analysis is the discovery of a magnetic anomaly in the lithosphere of eastern Siberia, where the head of the plume is projected to ascend. The authors of a study reporting these observations attribute the anomaly to the Siberian volcanic province, which formed as a result of eruptions 250 million years ago. They also note, this type of anomaly is typical for the magnetic patterns of deep plume-related structures. In other words, scientists also associate this anomaly with a plume, though they attribute it to an ancient plume that erupted 250 million years ago. It is worth noting that previous magma eruptions, which occurred approximately 250 million years ago at the boundary of the Permian and Triassic periods, were also located in this region. The epicenter of these eruptions was beneath the East Siberian Craton, near the Pudorana Plateau. However, the eruptions themselves covered vast areas across both western and eastern Siberia. Based on the analysis performed, the ALLATRA team of climate change and geodynamic experts has drawn preliminary conclusions. By comparing soil heating maps and near-surface temperature maps from recent years with the map of seismic anomalies, they have tentatively determined the current location and size of the mantle plume. It is assumed that the plume head is ascending south of the Gaida and Taimyr peninsulas and is likely divided into several branches. The overall diameter of the magmatic flow in the tail of the plume is estimated to range between 1,200 and 1,500 kilometers. Taking this into account, it can be assumed that the diameter of the magmatic flow spread likely doubles, reaching 2,500 to 3,000 kilometers. This area encompasses the tectonic structure of Western Siberia and the East Siberian Craton. It is probable that the plume head is currently eroding the East Siberian Craton, with magma spreading beneath its entire surface. This, in turn, may contribute to increased seismic activity in the Baikal region. Going back to the data I'm requesting from you, Alexander Leonidovich, for further analysis, what should be done with the information I have just shared? What practical steps should be taken? Now that we have roughly localized the mantle plume position, it is necessary to drill the wells for scientific research. These wells will allow monitoring the dynamics of the current Siberian mantle plume. To understand how quickly and in which direction the plume is intruding, and how its head is spreading and penetrating cracks in the Earth's crust, it is essential to monitor geothermal and geophysical parameters at depth. This requires drilling new wells and regularly measuring temperatures, pressure, gas composition, markers of intensified magmatic processes, seismic noise, and other parameters within them. 10 location points for drilling research wells have been identified for the studies. Criteria for selecting the wells were based on the following principles. Location of the wells has been determined with due regard for the intersection of the greatest thermal and geodynamic anomalies associated with the intrusion and spread of the mantle plume's head. Following this approach, one of the wells has been planned in the central part of a presumed ascent of the plume head, and 7 wells have been planned along the perimeter of presumed area of the plume head spread. An additional well has been planned in the Baikal region to monitor the active movement of magma beneath the East Siberian Craton. And one more well has been planned near the Kara Sea to monitor the plume's movement beneath the oceanic crust of the Arctic shelf. The location of the wells were chosen to optimize further seismic tomography work. This ensures that data obtained from the seismic sensors in the wells would allow for the most complete and accurate construction of a three-dimensional model. Thus, the seismic sensor network in the wells should be positioned in such a way so as to most effectively capture the structure of the subsurface. The well locations were selected also with the regard for the possibility of delivering drilling equipment and ensuring the transportation access. Given that the northern regions of western and eastern Siberia are characterized by rugged terrain, swampy landscapes, a lack of roads, and extreme climate conditions, the selection of drilling sites was based on the availability of existing infrastructure necessary for scientific research, such as roads, settlements, and active drilling sites. 3 drilling sites have been selected at currently active oil fields owned by Gazprom and Rosneft. The remaining sites are located near oil, gas, and other mineral deposits. It should be noted that if drilling is not feasible at the specific coordinates, the sites may be shifted to 10 to 20 kilometers in any direction. For comprehensive monitoring and study of the mantle plume, the following parameters must be collected from the research wells. 1. Temperature profiles. This involves measuring temperatures at various depths to analyze thermal anomalies. 2. Pressure. Determining pressure levels within the strata to assess hydrodynamic conditions. 3. Gas sampling. Collecting samples of gases from deep strata to study their composition and potential influence of magmatic activity on them. 4. Seismic research. Installing seismic sensors to monitor seismic activity and create a detailed picture of internal structures. 5. Formation fluid composition. Analyzing the composition of formation fluids to identify potential thermal or magmatic contributions. 6. Geomechanical studies. Measuring stress in the rocks to analyze the lithosphere's stress state. 7. Electromagnetic methods. Carrying out electromagnetic research to determine the electrical properties of the media associated with anomalous areas in the plume. The data collected will form a basis for developing a comprehensive model of the mantle plume dynamics and evaluating its impact on geological processes in Siberia. These are the data I kindly ask you,
Alexander Leonidovich,
to provide us with. Let me briefly summarize. We need geophysical and geochemical research data from a network of monitoring wells located in the following areas. One well in the central part of the suspected mantle plume, 7 wells along the perimeter of the plume's spreading zone, 2 wells in the direction of presumed magma movement beyond the plume's head spread. Our specialists can provide a detailed plan for scientific research if geologists and volcanologists of the Russian Academy of Sciences need assistance in preparing technical specifications for drillers and geophysicists working on the wells. This would allow us to peer into the Earth's interior and better understand what is happening there. This is particularly crucial now, as we observe an increase in deep focus earthquakes and overall seismic activity. Note that while earthquakes with a magnitude of 5 were rare in the past, they now occur not just daily, but multiple times per day. This has become our new reality. Moreover, we are now seeing magnitude 6 earthquakes gradually becoming a norm. If we reach a point where magnitude 7 earthquakes occur regularly, humanity will find itself in a situation where nothing can be done. When this flywheel gains full momentum, any attempt to slow it down, let alone to stop it, will be futile. Right now, while the process is accelerating, there is still a chance to change something. But in order to do so, we need a clear understanding of what we're dealing with by examining the very hotbed of the process. Therefore, for accurate forecasting, it is critical for us to receive this data at least weekly. Ideally, we would like to receive them every 3 days. But let's start with weekly updates. This is not so hard, after all. Look, you already have some wells in place, and only a few additional ones need to be drilled. Installing seismic centers and organizing collection of other perimeters are quite feasible tasks technically, especially since this is a matter of the future existence of your country. I understand that it requires effort and resources, but when the country's future is at stake, can those expenses actually be considered excessive? After all, who will rule over if no one remains there? So far, what you're doing is akin to drilling holes in the submarine we are all aboard, in your own cabin at that. Instead, wouldn't it make more sense to ask specialists to drill a few necessary wells? Provide us with data we need to understand what is happening. Most probably, you already see and understand that Siberia is warming faster than other regions on the planet. This is not merely a local Russian problem, it's a global threat. Every day, changes beneath Siberia's surface are causing consequences with worldwide implications. Previously, we had an opportunity to observe this critically important region. We could monitor processes, analyze changes, and make forecasts thanks to our technical capabilities. But now, since you deprived us of this opportunity, you reduced us to mere spectators. That's not a proper way of working. It's just unacceptable to work like that. You haven't just deprived us of information, but you've eliminated an opportunity for us to seek a solution on which your future depends as well. Now we are like blind kittens. We have no access to data and cannot predict anything accurately. We are merely guessing about what has been happening in Russia over the past year. Furthermore, some information is deliberately concealed and doesn't go beyond your country. Yet, you're an intelligent man and know for yourself that the situation is far worse than it appears. You can see how the climate situation in Russia is becoming increasingly dire and dangerous. For now, it turns out that we are detecting the symptoms of the patient based solely on their external appearance, interpreting the visible signs as a whole. We have no lab results, no ultrasounds, no MRIs, no CT scans, no X-rays, nothing at all. Meanwhile, to understand the problem and its underlying causes, we need a thorough investigation. The more precise the examination, the more accurate the diagnosis will be. At this stage, we need at least the data I'm requesting. It may not be the equivalent of a modern MRI data, but even an old-fashioned X-ray can help us draw relevant conclusions. That is why those wells and regular monitoring are so important. They are our access to the Earth's inner world, sort of a window through which we can peer into the planet's interior to understand the processes unfolding beneath our feet. Those data will enable us to foresee what awaits all of us ahead and to predict the near future. Somebody may counter, accusing us of seeking some kind of intelligence data. Such accusations are absurd. That's not intelligence data of any kind, but basic scientific information concerning the degree of the threat of the giant mantle plume, which spans half of Russia, and which could end life on this planet if it uncontrollably breaches. Therefore, I'm kindly asking you once again, Alexander Leonidovich, provide us with the aforesaid data. Please understand this is not merely about scientific research. It's about saving billions of human lives. Not in some distant, hypothetical future, but right now. At this very moment. Beneath your feet, processes are taking place that can lead to disastrous consequences. So we're asking you to reconsider your stance on the situation that you and we have found ourselves in, and to urgently grant us access to this vital information so that there is time to prevent the inevitable aftermath. Today, we have already faced a reality where, with each passing year, humanity is losing the ability to monitor and address the escalating climate crisis. Numerous laboratories have been damaged or completely destroyed by natural disasters. For instance, the headquarters of the National Centers for Environmental Information in Asheville, North Carolina, was severely affected by Hurricane Helene this October. This is a U.S. government agency managing one of the largest archives of atmospheric, coastal, geophysical, and oceanic data in the world. Some archival data from this center is still being uploaded in limited amounts due to issues with the service provider damaged by the hurricane. Do you see the other danger here? Time. By losing time, we lose the chance to make a change. Soon, we may lose everything. And it's not just about losing access to data. Humanity's survival itself will be in question. The conditions will be entirely different. Food shortages, energy crisis, along with massive migration of displaced people that no military force will be able to contain. Hunger, devastation, and uncontrollable chaos. And before you skeptically roll your eyes, let me stop you. No, we are not talking about some apocalyptic fantasy. This is mathematics and scientific data. Don't twist these facts to fit a narrative of omnipotence. Rule as you wish. No one is stopping you. But imagine what happens if this escalates 100-fold. Understand this. It could all unfold within just 1 year. We don't know exactly when it will happen because, as I've already mentioned, we lack access to the Siberian climate hotbed. Not only do we lack precise data, but interpreting the data we do have and connecting it to the broader picture is a monumental challenge. For some scientists, this information might seem useless and irrelevant. But for us, it is critically important because it offers hope and a chance to search for global solutions. At the very least, solutions such as controlled degassing, which could help prevent uncontrollable chaos. While this is not a comprehensive solution to the climate problem, it could buy humanity time to seek one. Alexander Leonidovich, you are an incredible, intelligent person. Calculate and analyze the progression of climate change. A person with your intellect, someone who has achieved what you have, is surely capable of understanding all the cause and effect relationships and trajectory of climate change, as well as where this is likely to lead in the coming years. We understand that you have dedicated your entire life to building something you've tirelessly pursued. We don't know what that is, perhaps a form of Nazism or a hybrid of theocracy and Nazism. And maybe you aim to create some other kind of hybrid system or build a new Atlantis. We're not here to criticize. Please don't take offense. I'm just sharing it as I see it. Whatever the case, keep doing what you've been doing. You're succeeding. You've already achieved remarkable success in Russia, bringing it to its knees, something no one in history before you had managed to do. We acknowledge your brilliance. That is a fact. Only a fool would deny the results you've achieved. You've subdued vast numbers of people and spread your ideology of Nazism, mutated with theocracy far beyond Russia's borders. We understand that you don't care about Russia itself and that your ambitions extend to the entire world. A new Atlantis, with power centralized in a single hand, is what you're aiming for on an international level. That's your right. Yes, your ideology has achieved significant results. But you must understand, you simply won't have enough time to build this Atlantis. You are among the greatest minds on the planet. So you must realize that soon, we will all face chaos. The situation with the climate will continue to aggravate, no matter what you do. You expect to create chaos, but you don't need to. It will arise on its own. And this will not be the type of chaos you can control. It will be chaos caused by the climate, and it will be unmanageable. Even if you advance your hybrid of Nazism and theocracy at breakneck speed, you won't succeed in time, and you must understand this. Natural disasters will grow so severe that people won't know where to go, and life as we know it will be destroyed. This is inevitable if we do nothing. If things continue this way, in a couple of years, all your wars, persecutions, and killings will be overshadowed by what's happening with the climate. Of course, this doesn't account for a full-scale nuclear war. In this case, the climate won't matter because no one will be left. If that is your goal, then it makes sense. But let me ask, what's the point of destroying the entire planet? In today's world, any fool with access to a button can turn the planet into nothingness. But only a genius of your caliber can stop the inevitable and preserve life on this planet. This is why we are addressing you, a person of great intellect and analytical ability. Can you prevent all these threats and use your extraordinary talent and global network to save humanity? We hold no illusions. You won't bring ALLATRA back to Russia. Too much effort has been invested in persecuting us over the years. Reversing all your decisions now would wound your pride and sow confusion among your followers. We know you won't take that step. But we appeal to you,
Alexander Leonidovich.
give us access to the data. We cannot make accurate forecasts without monitoring the Siberian hotbed, which we currently have no access to. You've gone to great lengths to dehumanize us, labeling us as an extremist terrorist sect. Through the work of your organization and network, you've ensured that no one listens to us anymore. Well, then if people won't listen to us, let them listen to you. Thanks to your efforts and meticulous work, we are perceived as a cult. But you hold credibility and authority. Please, use that authority. You have a powerful global network with key individuals in influential positions. Your team includes many brilliant minds like Vodacek, Carvalho, Stein, and Hessen, people with high intellect and analytical skills. You also have numerous media agents who can freely write defamatory articles about us, other organizations, or politicians, with no limits or censorship. If they can do this at your command, they can surely convey the truth about the climate crisis. So, use your network to save humanity. Not just to provide critical data, but also to inform the world about the real state of climate change. This would help bring together scientists to study the climate, not with us, not under ALLATRA, but among themselves. We will share all the information we've gathered and step aside if we are so undesirable to you. There will be plenty of work for them. Let the real experts finally tackle the issues they should have addressed decades ago to prevent the situation we're in today. If you lack sufficient climate data, we can send you our public report on progression of climatic disasters on Earth and their catastrophic consequences. It is freely available on our official website. Feel free to read it. But we also have much more information, data we cannot release publicly to avoid causing panic. If you're willing, let's meet, and I will share the numbers and how serious this situation truly is. We can provide all the information you need. But let's arrange a meeting, whether online or in person, as you prefer, but without arguments or disputes. We won't even say a word about the persecution against us. No criticism, no confrontation. We don't care about the genocide you've orchestrated against us. Right now, the fate of all humanity is at stake. Give me the time, and I'll explain the climate crisis to you so that you understand just how real and global this threat is. As ALLATRA volunteers, we've been studying climate for 30 years. 10 years ago, after repeatedly rechecking our calculations and confirming the reality of this climate threat, we began sounding the alarm. That's when we also created the ALLATRA organization. We reached out to everyone we could, wrote countless letters, issued appeals, held conferences, and knocked on every door. Addressing the climate crisis should have begun yesterday, but no one has taken meaningful action by now. Therefore, we must find a solution.
Alexander Leonidovich,
Tell us, who else can we turn to if not you? Let's be honest. Appealing to Putin is pointless. He doesn't deliver on what he promises. But everything you say is acted upon. To see this, one only needs to observe how Putin's rhetoric has shifted over the years. In direct response to your public statements and the influence of your Ratsier's agents. This clearly shows who truly holds the power in Russia. We're not playing with words. This is the truth. We've tried many times to reach out to Putin, to Xi Jinping, Trump during his presidency, as well as Biden and other world leaders. But we were ignored. We now understand that they were too preoccupied with pressing issues, geopolitical agendas, or, more plainly, playing the game you set for them. After anti-cult organizations intensified their persecution of us under your influence, we were stigmatized, brutally dehumanized, and reduced to mere cultists in the eyes of many. Despite the tremendous work we've done, we were no longer taken seriously. It became clear to us that appearing to government officials was futile. This is why I see the only possible solution as to appeal directly to you, relying on your unparalleled brilliance. No one else is as capable as you of analyzing and understanding the cause and effect relationships at play. I also trust in your humaneness, for I believe it is still there. There is a saying, a drowning man will clutch at a straw. Right now, the entire world is drowning. In my view, you are that straw, the only one we can clutch at. Please, do not dismiss my appeal. At least take time to consider it. That is why I'm now addressing all sensible and thoughtful people. Everyone who hears me, please share this message and ensure it reaches Alexander Dvorkin. I'm also addressing all journalists and all Ratsier's agents around the world. If you hear me now, but cannot personally deliver my words to Alexander Dvorkin, I urge you to ask your supervisors who are connected to him to forward him this video. The future of yourselves and your children depend on it. I also appeal to everyone who personally knows Alexander Leonidovich, who can call him or meet with him. If you understand the entire severity of the climate threat and the importance of my message, please talk to him and help him grasp how important this information is.
Alexander Leonidovich,
I know that you are fluent in both English and Russian. I'm not certain whether you speak Czech, so we will ensure this video is translated for you to fully understand my words.
Alexander Leonidovich,
If you activate the global network you have maintained and convey the reality of the looming threat to the world, you may still be able to save humanity. This is a chance that mustn't be missed. If you take this step, then despite the millions of lives already affected by your actions, despite the number of organizations you have persecuted, and despite the number of people you have deprived of their rights and freedoms, believe me, people will forget about it all. Why? Because their lives are at stake.
Vy to přece víte.
You do know that when it comes to survival, people are capable of anything. They will forgive you, and future generations will remember you not as a threat to the world, but as a great hero who has saved life on this planet. However, this will only happen if the world survives and future generations emerge.
Alexander Leonidovich, we acknowledge your genius.
If you possess sufficient understanding, wisdom, and mere human compassion, we will get the whole world to build the largest monument on this planet in your name. I will personally launch this project and start collecting funds. We will coordinate everything about it with you. And believe me, no one will deserve such a monument more than you will. And people will remember you for centuries. Otherwise, who will remember you on a desolate, lifeless planet? Today, many people do not yet know about the magnitude and power of your mind and the result you've already achieved in pursuing your goal. Maybe they don't need to know that. It would be far better for them to learn about your contribution to saving humankind. Yes, on the one hand, people always remember those who won battles and waged wars. Everyone remembers Hitler, Stalin, Kutuzov, and Napoleon. But on the other hand, there has never been anyone who saved the entire world. Now you can become such a person. And then your name would stand alongside prophets, because true greatness isn't measured by the number of territories conquered, but by the number of lives saved. I understand that you desired absolute power, but consider accepting absolute respect from all of humanity instead. You are the only one truly capable of saving them.